focusing on the kinematic relationships. These are the velocity ratios, the torque ratios, the transmission ratio, which is also the velocity ratio. But then before we dive into that, we need to first know how to represent our gears on schematics and diagrams. Saves us time. And later on, when we're looking at when we're analyzing gears, we won't even have these drawings. We'll literally just be using the schematics, the representation. So we first need to learn how to represent our gears. So these are simple spare gears. This is a compound gear train. This is just a simple gear train. Gear A is driving gear B. How do I represent this in a diagram? Okay, to do that, you start off by drawing. Okay, so let's look at this first. So this is the top view, and then this is the top view of the gears, and then this part is kind of like the front view, because from the front of the gear you can only see its thickness. From the top, that's when you can see its shape, like this circular shape and its teeth. So a gear diagram is basically almost like the front view. It's almost like this, but it's not like that. So let's start off with this simple gear train first. So first I'm going to draw gear A. How do you draw a gear in a gear diagram? So you draw one edge of the gear, other edge of the gear, then you join them with a line and a shaft. This drawing is so bad. Let me erase it and try again. But this is the best that this drawing pad can do. Okay, one edge of gear A, the other edge of gear A, join with a line like this, and this is the shaft attached to gear A. The shaft is not showing in this diagram, but I'm drawing it here because it's probably attached to a shaft. A gear can't just float. And then this is gear B meshing with gear A. How do you show a meshing on the diagram? You simply draw gear B right next to gear A. This is line, the edge of gear B, another line. That's the gear, and this is the shaft. So this is your gear A, and this is your gear B. Make this clear. Yeah, that's how you represent these two gears in a gear diagram. I'm sure by now you already get the hang of it. This is so simple. Then let's move on to this compound gear train. We're gonna start off by drawing gear A. How do you draw a gear? You just one edge of the gear, line, other edge, and the shafts attached to the gear. And gear A is meshing with gear B. So there's your gear B. So they're meshing. And this is the shaft attached to gear B. But as you can see, there is another gear on that same shaft. There are two gears on one shaft here. We have gear C and gear B. So how do you draw gears on the same shaft? Or you draw the other gear on that attached to that shaft here. It's the smaller gear, so I'm drawing it in proportion. And then that small gear is meshing with gear D, really big gear, and line, line, shaft. So this is your gear A, this is B, this is the little c, and this is the big D.
Mommy, Daddy, look at me. I went to school and I got a degree. All my friends call it the big D. I went to school and I got the big D.
Yeah, so that's how you represent gears on a diagram. Now let's move on to these are external gears. These are not the only gears that exist in the world. They are also like they're internal gears. So you just need to know your internal gears and your external gears basically. The Belleville stuff is not really necessary. So this is now an internal gear train. What makes it different from the external gear train? Well, there's this big annular gear with a small pinion inside it. It's not just, if we removed this annular gear, 1, 2, 3 would form an external gear train, but when there's this large gear and it's being driven by a small gear on the inside, that's an internal gear train. How do you represent that on on a diagram? Well, first and foremost, we will start off by drawing this big annular gear. Let me move my stuff up. Just gonna lift that up. Well, is it gonna move? Yes, please move up and please move up. So we've got space to draw. Okay, done. So how do you draw this? First and foremost, we're going to start by drawing the outer annular gear. So it's a really big gear. So this is the length of it. And then like that. This is how you represent an annular gear. And this is the shaft attached to this. So this is this big gear. And then the smaller gear that it's meshing with is meshing at one point here. Ta-da, there, there, and it's shaft. This is how you represent this. And I'm sure you already know how to draw this by now. So you can pause the video and draw it on your own and then check if you got it right. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're first going to draw this big outside gear. So two, 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 ta-da, like that. It's shaft. And then this large gear is meshing with that small gear over there. You draw that gear. Then it's meshing with this big gear. This is now like the external gear trains that we're drawing just a few seconds ago. And then this gear is meshing with both this gear and the annular gear. So it appears like this. You see, pretty straightforward, convenient, simple. So if we were labeling them, maybe this would be A, this would be B, C, D. This would be your B and D, and and this would be your big A, and this is gear C. Yeah, now that we know how to draw, let's see if we can actually understand. So this was preparing you for this. Okay, I'm gonna open it for this. So when you look at this, this shouldn't be overwhelming. You should understand this because we've already covered this. So let's analyze this one first. Something I didn't mention is these lines mean that this gear is fixed. Okay, it will not move. It is fixed. And if you did dynamics or mechanics, this is, you know this already because we usually show that something is fixed with these lines. So let's do the analysis. We've got an input gear, this blue gear. This gear is meshing with this orange gear. The orange gear in turn is meshing with this green annular gear. So this is a big annular gear. Remember that gear that I was showing you? That big one like this with teeth, 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 teeth. And then it would be meshing with like a small gear. This is the situation. This green one is that big annular gear, and this orange gear is meshing with it, and a blue gear here is meshing with that orange gear. This is the input meshing with the orange gear, meshing with the green, with the large green fixed annular gear. And then on the same shaft, this orange gear, the shaft attached to this orange gear also is another blue gear. So this orange gear is this one. So there's another gear over here. My drawings are so puny and small. Wait. Okay, so I try to draw it bigger so that you can see. So this green gear is the outside annular gear, and it's meshing with this orange gear, which is that one, and this is the blue input gear. And then on this orange gear there's a shaft, and the shaft is attached to another blue gear. It's smaller, so you can represent it like that. Then that blue gear is meshing with another orange gear. You can draw the meshing. I know my drawing looks, I just want us to understand. It's meshing with that gear over there, and then that gear in turn is meshing with another big annular gear. Let me try draw it in red. Can I? Is meshing with some other big gear. Yeah. And then I'm sure you, I hope you guys understand. The drawings are clearly not working. So let me use my mouth. We have an input blue gear, which is meshing with this orange spare gear. The orange spare gear is meshing with a large annular gear that is fixed. On the same shaft as the orange gear is another blue gear, which is meshing with an orange gear, which is also meshing with a with another fixed annular gear. And then the the second orange gear also on the shaft connected to that gear is a blue gear meshing with another orange gear that is in turn meshing with another fixed annular gear, and there's an output shaft there. So we have how many gears in this? We've got one, two, three annular gears. The annular gears are those big outside gears, are those internal gears. And then we have one, two, three gears meshing with the annular gears, with those big out with those big internal gears. And then we have these blue gears. So this is basically the same. Yeah, it's the same thing happening over and over again. And then here we have this input shaft attached to spare gear, to this blue spare gear. Then this blue spare gear is meshing with an orange gear. This orange gear is in turn meshing with a large annular ring gear, which is fixed. On the same shaft attached to this orange gear is another orange spare gear, which is meshing with an annular gear, with an annular ring gear that is not fixed. Yes, and this is the output shaft on the annular gear. Yeah, that should do it. Thank you for attending the class, and I hope you understand. Questions to put in the comment section. Yeah, and I will get back to you. So in the future, we're just going to be using these diagrams, and I hope you understand them.